Dr. Anthony Fauci appeared in the Washington Post COVID 2022 symposium to discuss prudent responses to the pandemic. Coming as a surprise to absolutely no one, this elitist want-to-be aristocrat basically told all of the peasants, like you and me, to shut up and do what we are told. That is what we will discuss today on the Sovereign States. Welcome to the Sovereign States. My name is Brian. I appreciate you stopping by and checking out the channel. If you like what you hear on this channel, please hit that subscribe button. Leave some comments for me. Tell me what I could do better, or leave your thoughts about the topic today and on my other videos as well. Love to hear from you. So, Anthony Fauci, the animal torturer-in-chief. He's at it again, thinking he is a demigod of sorts, and should be able to command all of the plebs to inject a substance into their bodies whether they like it or not. We all know that the central government of this country, the United States, does not have that authority, nor should they. And we definitely should not be granting that authority to an unelected bureaucrat like Dr. Fauci. He is such a weasel, this guy, I tell you. So today we're going to be talking about communal responsibility, because that's what he talked about at this COVID symposium put on by the Washington Post, because they're not biased at all. Anyway, this is from the Daily Wire. Let's read, shall we? On Wednesday, Chief Medical Advisor to the President, Dr. Anthony Fauci, stated that COVID-19 vaccine mandates similar to the recent one announced in New York City by the Marxist there, de Blasio, are needed because the country has, and I'm quoting now, to put communal responsibility ahead of individual preferences. We don't have communal responsibilities in this country. Not officially, anyway. Nothing wrong with exercising one's responsibility that they feel for their fellow human beings, for their countrymen, for their communities. There's nothing wrong with that. But having government mandate responsibilities to our community upon us, that is a no-no. We are not doing that here, because we are individuals who can keep our own counsel about how we will approach our responsibilities to our fellow human beings. We will decide for ourselves how we are going to meet those responsibilities and decide what our responsibilities are. I don't need some bureaucrat, some unelected, unaccountable person like Fauci telling me what my responsibilities are to my fellow human beings and my community. And I definitely don't need to be forced to, engage with those responsibilities, or the responsibilities that Fauci says that I have to my fellow human beings, under the threat of physical violence from the government. I definitely don't need to do that. Let me go on. He added, sometimes if you don't come to the realization that it's good for yourself, for your family, and the communal good, then mandates or requirements become necessary. Fauci, go do something anatomically impossible with yourself. I care not what you have to say about what is good for me. You do not get to decide what is good for me. More on that later. Let's get down here. He said in response to a question about the New York vaccine mandate, "You know, Francis, no one likes mandating for people to do things that they might be hesitant to do." Wrong, sir. Wrong. I think you like it very, very much. I think people who think as you do like it very, very much. People like it very, very much. Not everybody, but a lot of people. Do you honestly believe that politicians and bureaucrats and dictators and so forth would act the way they do if they didn't like it? Really? This guy knows nothing about anything besides virology and medicine. He doesn't know anything besides that, which is, he knows a lot about that. I'm not going to deny that. But the guy obviously knows nothing about human nature, about humanity as a whole, or history. Anyway, I go on. But quite frankly, you have to, when you're in the middle of what we call a historic experience of the worst pandemic of a respiratory disease in the last 100 years. That was a really long sentence. A lot of extra language he didn't need to say. We have to put the communal responsibility ahead of individual preferences. Wrong, sir. We are not doing that here. Particularly when the government is the one deciding what our communal responsibilities will be and how we are going to meet those responsibilities and make us do it under the threat of physical violence. So, although no one, myself included, likes being told what to do, but sometimes if you don't come to the realization that it's okay, I already read that part. This guy is a piece of crap. He is a power-hungry, tyrannical thinker who, well, thinks he's a member of the nobility and should be able to tell all of us what to do and what's good for us. Well, why? He doesn't think anyone likes telling other people what to do. Really? Why would anybody want to tell other people what to do? Well, power is a thrill. People who want power and desire power want it for its own sake. Why? Because it makes them feel good about themselves. It's like Benedict Cumberbatch's line from The Imitation Game. Great movie, by the way. He's having a fight with one of his colleagues. Colleague punches him. And he says, you know why people like violence? Because it feels good. That's right. Why do people like power and crave power? Because it feels good. Why do these people stay in office for 8 million years? Because the power feels good. And they like people kissing their butt all the time. And the lifestyle it gives them. They like being able to tell people what to do. And that's addicting. It's addicting. Why was Hillary so crushed when she lost the presidency to Trump? Not just because it's Trump, but because she thinks she deserves it because she loves power. That's why. It's like for some people, maybe it's a sexual release or something. I don't know. Especially powerful, though, is the ability to make people do other things under the threat of physical violence, which is all government is. That's why cops sometimes turn into such bullies. Sometimes they were ahead of time. That's what attracted them to the police. They wanted the power. But sometimes being a police officer turns them into bullies because when you know you can use violence on somebody else legitimately and legally, you'll do it. Or it'll make you feel good knowing that. Even if you're not the one committing the violence, which is the case of politicians and bureaucrats, they'll send some lackey out with a pew-pew to do the violence for them or threaten to do the violence for them. But behind every government measure is violence. It has to be. Elon Musk pointed this out the other day. This guy, sometimes I think he's crazy, but then sometimes I think he's just utterly brilliant. Maybe it's both. Maybe the line is not too thick there between the two. Elon Musk said, government is the largest corporation around and has a monopoly on violence. That is absolutely correct. Everything government does has the threat of violence behind it, which is why I abhor government so much. I'm not an anarchist. I know it's necessary. But everyone who loves freedom and liberty should abhor government and be suspicious and skeptical of government and everyone in it. Because, as Lord Acton pointed out, power corrupts and absolute power corrupts absolutely. This guy is corrupted. As corrupted as anyone. Now, the other problem, and this comes from a lifetime of people kissing your butt, like I said. Oh, right this way, Dr. Fauci. Or come this way, Dr. Fauci. I have your table already. Dr. Fauci, I've noticed your flatulence has no odor. Great line from Patch Adams. Anyway, people like Fauci believe they are wiser, more noble, more virtuous, and better than everyone else. They are our betters. They want to be aristocrats. This is the elite that the conservatives and classical liberals and libertarians always talk about. The elite class. I don't like that word necessarily because I think the aristocracy is better, more accurate, and has more vitriol attached to it, which is what we should be delivering to these people is vitriol and scorn. In America, we did away with all this nobility crap. That was the whole damn point. So we did away with all the nobility, the aristocracy, the landed gentry. All that stuff is gone. Now regular people are equal with everybody else. Your background does not matter. Or at least it's not supposed to matter. And these buttholes have never gotten over it. They have never forgiven America for doing away with the nobility. They want serfdom, with themselves as lords of the manor. And ladies of the manor, of course. That's what they want. Now, think about what people have been saying about the vaccine mandate, whether it's Fauci or Biden or whoever. Think about what they've been saying about vaccine mandates, why they're necessary, and so forth. Think about the penalties. Did I say penalties? Penalties that they want to impose on us, the serfs, for refusing their mandate. Think about this. And compare that language to this clip of Braveheart. This is Robert the Bruce, a noble, talking to his father, also a noble.
Men fight for me, because if they do not, I throw them off my land and I starve their wives and their children.
Now, compare that to the language about the vaccine. And let's change a couple words about what he just said and apply our current situation to it. People take the vaccine because if they do not, I throw them out of work and I starve their spouses and their children. That sounds similar to you? Sounds similar to me. That's exactly what they're trying to do. You take the vaccine or else. You take the vaccine or we're going to throw you out of work. We're going to starve you to death. We're going to starve your family to death. We're going to make you destitute, homeless, so you succumb to the elements because you're in the way of the machine. You're in the way of our power. You're questioning the nobility. You're questioning your betters, which is exactly how they think about themselves. These people are pieces of crap. Complete pieces of crap. Now, Fauci said something about communal responsibilities. Now, like I said at the forefront, there is nothing wrong with caring about other people, putting their needs first, and taking steps to help your community. There's nothing wrong with that, provided you are doing so by choice. Provided that you're keeping your own conscience about what your responsibilities are and how you are going to meet them. There is no mandate from the government to do things for your community, nor should there be, because that's someone else deciding for you what your responsibilities are. If you are a free person, nobody has a right to do that. Nobody. Particularly under the threat of violence from the government. You are not free if you are required to go against your own wishes and your own conscience in order to supposedly serve your community because some bureaucrat or some government official somewhere told you that this is what you have to do to serve your community. It's your responsibility. You're not free in that case. It's not that you shouldn't help your community. It's not that you shouldn't take the vaccine. I think the vaccines are freaking fantastic. It's actually a miracle. A miracle that we were able to produce them as quickly as we are. Or as quickly as we did. It's amazing. And it's wonderful. And I go talk to your doctor. I can't give anyone advice about whether to take it or not to take it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, but I think they're fantastic. And I think it's, go talk to your doctor for sure. And if the doctor suggests you get the vaccines, then take his or her advice, right? I mean, that's what I would do if I were you. But I can't. I'm not a medical practitioner, so I can't give any advice along those lines. I'm just saying, go talk to someone who is qualified to give you advice. So in essence, a free person has no communal responsibilities except those he or she chooses for themselves. And people have been trying to tell others what their communal responsibilities have been forever. Just ask, the kulaks in the Soviet Union, how they felt about their communal responsibilities when the Soviets came in and stole their farms from them, sent them off to the gulag, or ended them. Because that's what the Soviets said. You have communal responsibilities. You're part of the bourgeois. You're an oppressor, and so forth. What about the Uyghur Muslims in China? I'm sure the Chinese Communist Party is saying, well, your communal responsibility is to get with the program and get in line, right? You're hurting the collective. What about the Cambodians during the Khmer Rouge era? I'm sure Pol Pot was telling all the city dwellers, you got to go out to the rural areas on the farms and work out there because you have communal responsibilities. That's right. Even though, I don't know how many of them were deleted from this life because of Pol Pot and his idiots. Now, fundamentally, most of the people that are saying this stuff, Fauci, Biden, no one individual, but I imagine most people who support this kind of garbage think they're doing the right thing. They really do. Okay, I don't know the intentions. I don't know the motives. I can't read people's minds. I can't see into their souls. I don't know. And I'd like to assume that they have good intentions. But the road to hell is paved with good intentions. I don't give a damn about intentions. Intentions mean nothing to me when it comes to government. Results and impacts of policies are what matters to me. And do they make people more free or less free? C.S. Lewis had a great quote on this. It's one of my favorite quotes of all time when it comes to people with good intentions operating as government officials. And I quote, "Of all tyrannies, a tyranny sincerely exercised for the good of its victims is perhaps the most oppressive. Better to live under robber barons than these omnipotent moral busybodies." Fauci, bureaucrats, Biden, Harris, omnipotent moral busybodies. "A robber baron's cruelty may sometimes sleep. His cupidity may at some point be satiated." And here's the key phrase. "But those who torment us for our own good will torment us without end, because they do so with the approval of their own conscience. They may be more likely to go to heaven, yet at the same time likelier to make a hell of earth." Wow. Man, he is spot on. Right, Australia? Right? You're making your country a hell. All with the best of intentions, I'm sure. Thoreau once pointed out, "If I knew for a certainty that a man was coming to my house with the conscious design of doing me good, I should run for my life." We should run for our lives from people like Fauci, from these know-it-alls, these petty tyrants like de Blasio, like Joe Biden. We should run for our life. They should never be elected in the first place. Do not let these people exercise a tyranny simply because they say it's for our own good. I'm not saying Fauci is wrong that the vaccines are great. I'm not saying that. All I'm saying is just because he says it's for your own good does not mean that it is. Decide for yourself. Do your own thinking. I wanted to point out one more thing about this. The vaccines are great. They're fantastic. This is from Nature, by the way. They're fantastic for reducing the likelihood of severe illness, hospitalization, or expiration. What they are not so good for, according to the studies, is keeping you from actually getting the coof and giving it to other people, particularly the Delta variant. So this is from Nature, as I said. "The study shows that people who become infected with the Delta variant are less likely to pass the virus to their close contacts if they have already had a COVID-19 vaccine than if they haven't. But that protective effect is relatively small." Well, that's pretty important. "And dwindles alarmingly at 3 months after the receipt of the second shot." Apparently, this wasn't the case with the Alpha variant. That's good, but the findings add to scientists' understanding of the vaccination's effect on curbing Delta spread. According to, some guy at the University of California. Previous studies have found that people infected with Delta have roughly the same levels of viral genetic materials in their noses, regardless of whether they've been previously vaccinated, suggesting that vaccinated and unvaccinated people might be equally infectious. If that's the case, what do I owe my community? The vaccine helps me. It doesn't help anybody else. Right? I mean, that's what this is saying mostly. Okay, there is a slight bump. It wanes over time, but that's okay. This was never designed to keep the coof from spreading. It was designed to keep people from getting really sick. That's great. So if that's the case, why are we measuring new cases and the growth of? Why do we care about that if the people getting it, for the most part, are all vaccinated and they're not going to get really sick probably? Why aren't we just tracking new hospitalizations and expirations? Shouldn't that be all that matters, really? And wouldn't that be more impactful to helping people, convince people to go talk to their physician about the vaccine if they're hesitant? Say, listen, it may not keep you from getting it, but at least it'll keep you from getting... It'll reduce the likelihood of you getting really sick or having to go to the hospital. That's really the issue here. So what the hell is he talking about when it comes to communal responsibilities? I'm sorry, they're talking out of both sides of their mouth here. And it's driving me freaking crazy. It's been driving me crazy from the beginning. Just tell the truth. Tell the truth. Get the vaccine. If I'm Fauci, I'm not telling people to do this. I'm not a medical professional. If I'm Fauci, I would say, listen, get the vaccine because it's going to reduce the likelihood of you getting really sick and possibly expiring. It's not necessarily going to help you from getting it or help keep you from giving it to somebody else. But if you're both vaccinated, what's the danger? The likelihood of either one of you getting sick is almost statistically insignificant, even if you're in the high-risk groups. This guy, oh gosh. Donald Trump should have fired this guy a long time ago. Listen, he's done great work. He's done a lot of good in his career. I'm not saying he hasn't. But his behavior through this pandemic has been god-awful. You know, Rand Paul is right. In these hearings, Rand Paul is being a little too over-the-top aggressive, and some of these other senators and congressmen are just being just ugly to him. That's not helpful. Okay, but at least Rand Paul's telling the truth. Okay, at least he's telling the truth. Anyway, that's it for today. Again, if you like what you've heard on this channel, check out my other videos. Subscribe to the channel. I'd love the community to grow. Leave some comments. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Until next time, this is The Sovereign States. My name is Brian, and I appreciate you checking out the channel. See you next time.